Amazon has changed music, or at the very least, the way that people name their bands. Because 10 years ago, when you named your band, you had to be easy to spell for Google search, and you had to have good SEO. But now, thanks to Amazon, bands have to be easy to pronounce. So I'm really sorry to bands like Lynyrd Skynyrd, Gautier, Bon Iver, or should I say Lynyrd Skynyrd, Got Ye, Bon Iver. And my favorite, Chick Chick Chick, which is really just 3 exclamation points in a row. That's a band name. So do you guys do anything easy to make it easier for people to pronounce and find band names when they're talking to Echo and Alexa?
Yeah, we're working on the back end so that you can more or less pronounce it how you want to pronounce it.
So I could butcher the names and you guys will still recognize them?
As best we can. I'm sure you could break it if you tried really, really hard, but we can see which ones people are struggling with. And we'll work hard to make sure that Alexa understands you. The whole idea is for the whole thing to be as simple as possible to listen to music. So if you have to try 7 different ways to pronounce your favorite band, that's not simple.
Okay, so you guys, Alexa has really vaulted you into the top range of music companies. But right now, between you, Amazon, Apple, and Google with YouTube, 3 of the top companies in music is not their main revenue driver. And there are a lot of skeptics that think that that's not really good for the music industry long term. What do you think about that?
Well, look, we've been doing music for a long time. So you may or may not know, but music was the second thing that Amazon ever did after books. We've been in the music business. Next year it'll be 20 years. So we moved into streaming in 2014, and by putting music inside of Amazon Prime, and as part of Alexa, it's really core to 2 very strategic priorities of the company. But our job is to make music as big as possible and at scale, and scale the revenue line for it. So I can't speak to the other companies, but we look at growing the business side of music, not just getting more users.
You guys don't think of Amazon Music as just a loss leader?
No, we don't really think of anything like that at Amazon. We don't get up thinking about loss leaders. It's core to the experience, and the way we organize at Amazon, we have independent groups. My job is to make the Amazon Music business a great business for Amazon.
And so when you're doing that, what is like the primary objective? Is that more people paying, more people signing up for Prime, more people versus more people signing up for Amazon Music Unlimited, or how do you balance those priorities?
Yeah, so ultimately we want people to land in the music service that's right for them. And if you're a Prime member and you're kind of a mainstream casual music listener, Prime Music may be the right service for you. But if you're a little bit more into it, or in our mind, once you have an Echo and have an Alexa, that full catalog service is the experience you want. Because once you have this interface where you can just ask anything, you want to be able to ask anything. I always give the analogy, imagine if you asked Alexa, hey, what's the weather in New York? And she told you, I only have it in San Francisco and LA. Wouldn't be a great experience. And the same is true with music. We find that in the Alexa interface, even people who are pretty casual music listeners, they all have a song or 2 they really want to hear, and in order to deliver that, you really do need the full catalog.
So you guys built Alexa and the Echo in relative secrecy compared to most things in the modern tech world, which just get leaked repeatedly. So how did you guys build music into that core strategy for Alexa?
Yeah, well, I'm not here on behalf of Alexa, so I can't really talk to the secrecy and all. But the company decided to make a speaker the first Alexa endpoint, consumer endpoint, and so it's pretty, kind of flows pretty naturally that music would be a core use case of that. And so we were involved very early in the development of the Echo and Alexa, because music, and we see it today in how people use the Echo, it's one of the top things that people do every day.
Were you guys building Amazon Music features and like the different product lines ahead of the launch of Echo, just waiting for it?
Well, we had a streaming service out, Prime Music, before Echo came out. But I think, look, the growth of Alexa and Echo has been a really great positive thing for the company. And once we started to understand how people were using it, that's when we, as a music team, took a step back and said, okay, well, how is this really different? Because it's such a massive platform shift that, in the early stage of development, even when you're working on the platform, you may not fully grok how different it is. But once you've really been using it out in the wild for a bit of time, you realize, wow, this is totally different. And that's when we started to find, where is it that consumers are failing? How could we make the music experience even easier? And we've done that by offering lots of new ways to find the music you want to listen to.
So what are you seeing as the major macro shifts in music listening behavior that are being spawned by the shift to voice?
We're seeing a few. One is the simplicity of the voice interface implies kind of a demographic shift. So it's not just the smartphone crowd who are listening to streaming music. It's really everybody, because the simplicity of Alexa means that you have people adopting what's still a relatively early in a consumer product cycle. You have people that are, would normally be on the later end of that adoption cycle, adopting it now. So making it as easy as possible is really critical, because we've got demographics who love music, but they may not know the latest band, they may not know the song of the name of the song they just heard on the radio. So you have to make that easier.
Is that are you talking about just people who really aren't as into music? Or I'm imagining 3-year-olds who can't even get their hand around the edges of a smartphone, but they can tell Alexa that they want to hear their favorite Raffi song.
Yeah, well, and what you see with younger kids, they often will just ask for a song by the lyrics of the song, right? So that's one of the things we had to enable, where you can just ask Alexa to play a song, just say a few words from the song, and she'll find it for you. Because people are, they have that recall of the lyrics, but not necessarily the name, maybe not even the artist. We see people, it's a communal listening environment. I think that's really a big change that the music industry is starting to wrap its head around. The smartphone is the most personal listening environment, really ever created. And in a smartphone era, we think of music listening as having kind of moved out of the home and the living room. And with voice, it's actually really coming back in. So, you see teenagers gathering around an Echo and kind of trying to play DJ and interrupting Alexa all the time to get the next song going. And so as a developer, you start thinking, okay, well, what are some of the experiences I could build around that to take advantage of communal listening, different demographics. It can sometimes be a very ambient listening experience, and sometimes it can be a very lean forward, I want this song and I want it right now.
I know that sometimes when I leave my friends' houses, I just yell back through the door, "Hey Alexa, play Master of Puppets by Metallica," and just blast them. Do you see a lot of that, or how are you
well, whenever I punish my son, he runs up to his room and plays songs that I don't like really loudly. So it's kind of the same thing.
Are you guys doing anything to help build collaborative playlists or more social features into Amazon Music?
Yeah, we have playlist sharing right now. We don't have anything in the voice interface, but we're watching how people are using the Echo, and if that looks like the way people want to use it, for sure we'll go that direction.
So I want to talk a little bit about the competition in this space. You've got a whole bunch of big players that are all doing pretty well right now, but there's such an open field ahead. There were hundreds of millions of people who were buying MP3s,
yeah. And
now we still only have a pretty small number or fraction of that listening to streaming music. So I just want to get your sort of gut check on a few of these services and on how you think things are going to play out. Maybe a little bit of what you like, or where you think there's an opportunity or something lacking in these products. So what are your views of how Spotify is doing?
Yeah, I'd rather not give a report card on every competitor, but I think what's clearly happening is we're just, even though music streaming, particularly probably for this audience, feels like it's been around for a long time, we're really just in the early days. We think we just crossed 100 million global paying subscribers. You mentioned hundreds of millions of MP3 purchasers. It's literally just a drop in the bucket. So we think there's a ton of growth, but what we do see is pretty clearly already happening is for music streaming services, focused on discovery and playback, it is consolidating around a relatively small number of global platforms. And I think that trend is happening, and I would expect it to continue to happen.
Would you expect that to continue because you're going to buy one of those services?
No, I just think you can see what's happening already. I mean, that's where the consumers are going. The smaller guys, for better or for worse, the ones that have been selling premium services have struggled.
Yeah, I mean, you've got like Pandora, which has really been having a lot of trouble. They kind of went from being the premier music service to being just a feature that everyone offers. Do you think that there's room for purely radio-based services in the future?
I think there's definitely room for radio-based services in the future, but again, I think when we look at the landscape and we think about how are we bringing music to market, we think we're at the beginning of the music streaming industry, still pretty early, and we're at the beginning of this big platform shift to voice. And in that environment, we have found that even the most casual music listeners frequently get in situations where they want to hear songs on demand, because you've got this smart assistant on the other end of your voice. And whether it's whatever it is you want to do, whether it's listen to music or weather or information, you expect her to be smart. So when you say, hey, play this song that I just heard on the radio on the way home from my commute, you expect her to be able to play it. And I think that's why we think on-demand is the right service for that environment.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really see there being a lot of room for just solely radio services. That just seemed like it was a vestigial wing of how music evolved. With the FM dial, that was really the only way you could do it, was have somebody else play the music for you. But naturally, when you hear a great song, you want to hear it again. And it's ridiculous that there are services that you can't do that. I just can't really imagine those surviving.
Yeah, I don't have an opinion on their survival, but I do think on-demand is the better customer experience, no doubt.
So Amazon really was the original place for user-generated content in the form of books. You guys gave this home to all of these independent authors.
Yep.
With music, you did that again with MP3s, but now in the streaming era, that gray area of music, that level of independent creators, I think has been minimized, because that music just really isn't on the big streaming services like Amazon, Apple Music, Spotify. It's on SoundCloud right now, but SoundCloud's not doing so well. What do you think the future of user-generated music, that really independent stuff, is?
I think the future's strong, and I'm not sure I agree with your premise. I mean, it's never been easier to create music inexpensively and distribute it broadly. Some people choose to do it on SoundCloud, but there are other platforms out there where for a very minimal fee per month or per year, you can upload your music and it's instantly distributed across to Amazon, Apple, and everybody else. It's not a social platform like SoundCloud, but there's no shortage. I mean, the amount of music that comes into our service every week is breathtaking. It's more than anybody could ever possibly listen to. So I don't really see that as a problem that independent music doesn't have a home in the big services.
I mean, that makes sense for the stuff that's totally original, but there's tons of artists that are DJs making hour-long mix sets of other people's music, unofficial bedroom remixers who are just taking their own spin on popular songs, and that stuff's thriving on SoundCloud but doesn't appear anywhere else.
Yeah.
Are you guys do you want that content on Amazon? Are you looking into how to handle the rights to make that possible?
If our customers want it, then we'll go there. We're really led by them, and right now our customer base has not been screaming for it, but I think that will evolve over time.
Personally, what I really want to see is you guys acquire SoundCloud and then connect it with Twitch, which is sort of the user-generated video content platform for performers that what YouTube could have been, but has kind of failed at more recently.
Yeah.
Do you think there's more to come between Amazon and Twitch?
Yeah, I think for sure. I mean, Twitch is an amazing platform, and they have done some stuff in music on Twitch, and some artists take advantage of the platform frequently already as a way to, kind of a live video way to reach their audience. And I think we'll just wait and see, how we can expand that platform. It's been focused obviously on gamers and esports. But it's a really great platform.
So I want to talk a little bit about exclusives. Now, Amazon has gone into this in terms of video. You guys are creating some of your own original series, and they're amazing. But in the music world, exclusives have a sort of a different effect, because they're not these long-form pieces of content that it takes 30 minutes or an hour to watch them. Songs are quick, and if you can't have your favorite songs on all your favorite services, it really degrades that user experience. What is your perspective on exclusives, like things that are permanently only available on Tidal or Apple Music, and what's your opinion on how that affects the music listener base?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally speaking, the industry is moved away from exclusives, and I think that generally it's a good thing overall for the consumer. I agree, the short form nature of music content, the fact that people mix different songs together to create playlists, it's not something you do in video. We do have one very large exclusive relationship with Garth Brooks, and he was really the last major artist to decide to go streaming last fall, and he was looking for an exclusive partner. And in that case, given the fact that we're also the largest seller of physical music in the world, it was a relationship that was really just meant to be. There aren't very many artists like Garth Brooks, it turns out. So I don't really expect there to be lots more deals like that, whether from us or other services. But I expect there to be some smaller stuff going here and there. But it's not a big strategy going forward.
What about windowing? When services put up one service will get a song or an album for the first 2 weeks before it comes everywhere else.
Yep.
That's also, I think, can really hamper the virality and the growth of those albums. But those artists usually get a big payout up front for it. How do you think that trend is going to evolve?
So, I mean, we're definitely in favor of the concept of a premium window, meaning new music comes out, it's available only to paying people, subscribers, for some period of time, and that could be a day, it could be 2 weeks, 4 weeks. And you have to remember every artist is different. So the strategy that works for one artist is not necessarily the strategy that's going to work for another. So if you're a developing artist who doesn't have a big audience yet, you probably don't want to window your content. You want it to go as broadly as possible from day one. But if you're an established artist who has a big fan base, that's probably not the best strategy to make the most out of that album release. And there have been artists who have successfully windowed, and it frankly hasn't hurt them. And I would expect that trend to grow, not shrink.
So what about becoming a label? Do you guys ever consider signing artists directly to Amazon?
Yeah, we get asked this question a lot, in part because of Amazon Studios. And the short answer is we're not trying to become a record label. We view the music industry, the video industry is really very, very different in the way that content is created, consumed, distributed, marketed, etc. We have worked on original content projects with a number of artists, creating playlists just for our Amazon customers. In those cases, though, we're really trying to do something special for our customers, and it tends to be around developing artists, which gives them access to an audience. We promote those playlists a lot. And so it gives them a broader audience than they otherwise would ever get just by themselves. But we're not trying to, the labels really play a very important function in the world, and it's not really in our interest to displace them.
All right, so beyond that content side, how do you guys end up winning over people who aren't streamers yet, people who are MP3 listeners? What do you do to actually become attractive enough that they make that shift?
Yeah, it was really two things. I mean, like I said, music is at the core of two central strategies for the company. One is Prime. So by putting an on-demand streaming service inside of Amazon Prime, we've already done that. We've already brought a lot of people into premium music streaming who never were streaming before. And then once they've been introduced to it, we kind of move them up the chain, so to speak, to the premium service. And then we find, again, with Echo and Alexa, it's bringing people into premium streaming who had never considered it before. And because it's something you use every day, and it's so easy, the idea of paying a few bucks a month for a streaming service, when we look at the conversion rates that we have, people doing their free trial on an Echo and then converting into premium, it reaches levels that the industry's never seen before. And people ask me why, and I say, well, it's simple. If you use it every day and it's reasonably priced and the experience is good, well, why wouldn't you pay for it?
But when every service is trying to become more simple, Apple Music has talked about being more simple. Spotify is trying to find more ways to just give you the music through its homemade playlists. How do you differentiate when everyone's trying to be simple?
Those playlists, all that stuff is great. If you talk to customers about, I just want to listen to some music and the fastest path from here to there, there are better ways. And we think that some of the stuff that we're doing, particularly in the voice interface, it takes literally all of the friction out of the music listening experience. And we think this is as big a shift in the way people interact with computers as is the touch interface on a smartphone. And just whenever there's a new platform, the name of this conference is TechCrunch Disrupt, it creates new winners and it disrupts the existing status quo, and that's what we see happening already.
All right, so final question. The biggest problem for me with Alexa and Echo is that eventually I have to put on pants and actually leave my house. So where are the Alexa headphones?
I was hoping to see one of the great startups here actually showing one on the floor. I don't know. It's a great idea. I'd love to have a pair, but I'm sure there's room for people to innovate there. There's obviously Alexa voice services. There's something that people can integrate and create products around.
Are you guys going to build those?
I don't know. Don't know.
Guess we'll have to wait and see. Thank you so much for talking with us. Thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.